Okay, let's dive right in. When you think of Canada, it's almost impossible not to think of hockey, right? But what we're talking about today goes so much deeper than just a sport. It's about a cultural connection that really defines the entire nation. So we're going to peel back the layers on Canada's game to figure out what makes it so much more than just hockey. I mean, seriously, think about it. Why does an entire country just stop? Streets go silent, work gets put on hold, and millions of people hold their breath all at the same time. What is it about this game on ice that commands that kind of attention? Well, to get it, we have to rewind the clock to a very specific moment. 16 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how many Canadians, out of a population of only 22 million at the time, were glued to their TVs for the final game of the 1972 Summit Series. That's not just a big audience. That's a shared national experience on a scale that is just, wow, it's hard to even imagine. And that massive, massive number leads us right here. For Canada, hockey isn't just entertainment. It's the nation's pulse. It's this cultural force that really reflects the country's spirit, its values, and its heartbeat. And this is really the core of it all. The game itself is like a mirror for the Canadian character. You know, it's all about being resilient when things get tough, about cooperation and teamwork, and having this quiet but super fierce pride. This is a sport that was literally born from long, cold winters, turning a huge environmental challenge into a source of identity. So how did this all start? To really get this obsession, we've got to go back. Let's explore the origins, how this whole thing was, quite literally, forged in the ice of the Canadian landscape. Now, the story of hockey in Canada doesn't begin with European settlers. Its roots run much deeper. They're Indigenous. Long before any organized leagues, the Mi'kmaq, the Ojibwe, and other First Nations were playing games like shinny on frozen ponds. And it wasn't just for fun. It was about building community and teaching really important life skills. This timeline just lays it out so perfectly. It starts out super informal, just games on frozen ponds. Then, bam, 1875 in Montreal. You get the first organized indoor game, a huge shift. And what's so fascinating is that as hockey was getting its rules and its structure, Canada itself was becoming a nation after 1867. The sport and the country basically grew up together, side by side. And this quote from former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau just solidifies that bond perfectly. He saw the sport as a direct reflection of the nation's identity. So it's not just a game. He's saying it's like a self-portrait on ice. Okay, so with that history as our foundation, how did hockey transform into a source of national legends? Well, it happened through these specific, high-stakes moments that went way beyond sports and became part of Canada's shared story. And this brings us right back to that incredible number, 16 million. The 1972 Summit Series. This was so much more than hockey. This was a Cold War showdown on ice. It was Canada's best pros against the seemingly unbeatable Soviet team. The whole country was just on the edge of its seat. And then this happened. Just 34 seconds left in the final game, Paul Henderson scores. It is the goal. It's a moment that has echoed through generations. Even today, people who were there still ask each other, where were you when Henderson scored? It connects an entire generation to this single, amazing, triumphant moment. But the story isn't all nostalgia and national pride. The game today is complex. There's a duality we have to look at because for all of its incredible passion, there's also a price. Let's talk money for a second. Hockey isn't just a cultural pastime, it's a massive economic engine. We're talking about an $11.2 billion industry in Canada. That number covers everything: pro teams, equipment, tourism, you name it. It's a financial powerhouse. And this economic reality, it's got two very different sides. On one hand, you have these incredible community benefits, right? NHL arenas bringing downtowns back to life, junior teams that are the lifeblood of small towns. But on the other side of the coin, the financial barriers are just huge. We're talking over $10,000 a year for elite kids hockey. And that's before we even touch on the very serious scandals around hazing and violence that have damaged the sport's reputation. So, facing those challenges brings us to the core of the issue today. What's the future look like? How is hockey evolving to actually reflect a Canada that's more diverse, more inclusive, and more forward-thinking than ever before? And the great news is, you can actually see the change happening. The launch of the PWHL has been a massive, game-changing success for women's hockey. You have Indigenous programs reconnecting communities with the sport's deep roots. And get this, Hockey Night in Canada is broadcast in Punjabi to 500,000 viewers every week. These are real, tangible steps, making the game feel like it truly belongs to everyone. And you can see that change right on the ice, too. Players from all kinds of different backgrounds are becoming superstars. I mean, when Nazem Kadri brought the Stanley Cup to his hometown mosque, or when you see players of Japanese heritage like Nick Suzuki and Kyler Yamamoto tearing it up, it sends this incredibly powerful message that the face of Canadian hockey is changing for the better. This quote from David Suzuki it brings us perfectly full circle, doesn't it? A Canadian art form, our ballet. Wow, that just perfectly captures that deep, almost spiritual connection between the sport, the land, and the national character. It's something that was created by Canadians for Canadians. So this is the final question we're left with. The country is constantly changing. It's more multicultural, more inclusive, more complex every single day. The ultimate test for Canada's game is whether it can truly keep pace and reflect the nation it claims to represent. So, what do you think?